All right, so going Facebook Live again. I'm going to be talking about crate training tonight, and if my eyes are all over the place, I have my YouTube camera going up there in case anyone wants to rewatch this. Obviously, it'll be available on Facebook, and it will also, I'll upload it to YouTube as well. Some people have a preference to view it on YouTube as well, so I'll make sure that it's on both platforms. So that's why my eyes are going up and down, and I have some notes here too. I don't want to miss anything, so I apologize. And as always, if you guys have questions, you can pop them in the comments. I can see most of the comments. Hey Bonnie, hey Robin. Yes, the puppies are good, and yes, they are doing well in their crates. All right, so let's get going with crate training, and hopefully everyone is staying safe and dealing with this whole social distancing thing. And again, hopefully I can offer some value to your dog or dog's life and give you a little reprieve from this coronavirus crap. So, why do we crate dogs? There's a whole bunch of reasons why people crate dogs. You know, I mean, obviously housebreaking is usually the number one reason why people opt for crate training. It's one of the first reasons why I opt for crate training. Although it's very rare that I have a puppy that I'm like, that's going to be mine. We usually adopt and rescue older dogs, and even then, sometimes they need to be crate trained. So that's usually one of the first reasons why I would crate train. And we'll get to this stuff in detail as I go down the list. I have a whole, I don't know if you can see it, I have a whole list here, so I want to make sure I cover as much as possible and try to bang it out in an hour. Hey, what's up, Jose? Nice to see you on here, man. So it's safer, right? It's safer to have a puppy or a new dog in a crate, because puppies or dogs that have never been exposed to a home environment, they can get into a lot of trouble very quickly. So that's obviously a huge consideration, is their well-being and their safety. It's cheaper, okay? And anyone who has dogs or has had, dogs that are high energy, or maybe they were chewers, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it's cheaper. And, Diana and I, we're together, oh God, we're together a long freaking time. 21 years almost. Actually, yeah, 21 years we're together. And we've had a whole bunch of dogs. And her puppy, Jake, she had when we met. And, he became my baby boy. But he chewed couches, cell phones, sneakers, remote controls, answering machines. Oh God, I'm probably missing a bunch of woodwork. I mean, you name it, he chewed it. And he was crate trained. So we've been through our fair share of dogs that were destructive. Obviously, as we've gone through in our process of supervising dogs, which we'll get to in a minute, everybody knows puppies get into trouble in seconds. It doesn't take long. So it's definitely cheaper. Preparing your dog or your puppy for potential future uses of the crate or confinement, which, if your dog is ever sick in the future, it may need to go to a vet and it's going to be in a small cage. So having that crate training background and foundation is important for those things. Emergency boarding. I mean, people say, oh, I would never board my dog. I get you. I say that too, but you say never until you need to, right? And God willing, we never need to. We always have family or friend or somebody that can help out, but you never know down the line. Heck, look what we're going through right now. And did anyone out there ever think that we would be confined to our homes because of this stupid virus, right? So anything can happen. So preparing for future needs is it's essential. Boarding, whether you board in a facility or maybe you have your dog walker who does a little boarding at her or his house, and maybe dogs are in crates. So, and I can go on, but there are a lot of reasons why to crate dogs. So that's that. So we're going to jump right in. First things first is, how big should the crate be? And let me make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay. Okay, I'm not missing anyone, and looks like Robin's inviting a few people, which is cool. Anyway, yeah, there's a whole bunch of reasons why we could crate train, and we'll get into some of this stuff as we go throughout the process. But anyway, the crate size. Rule of thumb, and incidentally, you know, do all dogs need to be crated? No. I recommend that all dogs are exposed to crate training at some point in their lives for the reasons I just mentioned. But some dogs, like, they just get it. They just get housebreaking. They're not destructive. They're happy-go-lucky. They don't get into trouble if they're not supervised. Like, those dogs are out there. Nevertheless, I'm a huge proponent of crate training. So that's that. Anyway, so the size of the crate, it should be large enough for the dog to stand up, turn around, and lay down. That's your baseline size, right? Now, if you have a puppy, and you know, let's say you have a lab puppy, that's going to be a bigger dog. You don't have to get a small crate. You can get a crate suitable for that dog's adult size, because most crates, they come with dividers. So you can actually divide the crate to make it small enough, and then as the puppy grows, you could expand the area that the dog has inside the crate, so it can grow into the crate, where that baseline formula still holds true of having enough room to stand up, turn around, and lay down. Now, once they're crate trained, obviously, we want as big as possible, as big as we could fit in our home, because the bigger the better. The bigger the crate, the more comfortable. But again, we have to get to the point of where the dog is not soiling in the crate, the dog is not destructive, things along those lines. But generally, stand up, turn around, lay down, that's how big it should be. That's the baseline formula, and again, it varies by dog. Now, let's say you get a crate from a friend or off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, and it doesn't have a divider. Sometimes you can use boxes. You can use an old shipping box to take up space in the back of the crate. You could do something like that. You can get creative. You can go to Home Depot and get those little grids and kind of do like a makeshift divider yourself to make sure. But it is important that there isn't too much room in there. The more room, the more likely the dog is to pee and poop on one side of the crate, as opposed to having a smaller confined space where the dog can grow into as it grows. So, and we'll talk about crate intro in a minute, because introducing the crate is really important. So that's the size, and I mean, I'm jumping around a little bit on my thing, but we're just gonna get this out of the way. Types of crates and confinement. There's wire crates, there's airline crates, there's gorilla crates. You have doggy gates or pens, where some people don't want to crate the dog. They want more of a open feeling. So they might put up a little X pen in their kitchen on the tile floor where it's easier to clean up mess. Again, the same rule still applies. If you have one of those hexagon pens, don't give them the whole hexagon right away. Make it a square at first, right? And make sure that it's stable too, because some dogs, they'll put their nose in it and they'll push the hexagon pen all over the house, and then it'll flop over. So make sure you take that into consideration if you're interested in just using a pen type of situation. Some people opt to put the dog in the bathroom with a gate up, and again, to each his own. And although that may work, if you're crate training for the purpose of housebreaking, that large space might be too much and the dog may soil. And we won't even get into wee-wee pad training versus crate training, because that's a whole nother topic of conversation. Although if people are opting to put a doggy gate up outside their bathroom and giving the dog the whole bathroom, and they're going to wee-wee pad train the dog, that's fine too. Keep in mind, it's going to take you a lot longer to house train a dog that is wee-wee pad trained. Now, there are exceptions to that rule as well. There's exceptions to every rule. If you're dealing with a rescue dog, or, in my case, I deal with a lot of rescues, and I train for other rescues as well. And, sometimes I get dogs here who are flight risks. So, especially right now, we had those 3 feral puppies. If anyone's been following the puppy development on my Facebook page, they're feral puppies, they're flight risks. We've been slowly introducing them to the leash and outside. So they are actually wee-wee pad trained. They're crate trained too, but then they're in our kitchen nook, which is it's a room, it's about 8 by 10, and then they each have their crates as well. So they are crate trained, but then we let them out with the wee-wee pads so they can, they can relieve themselves. And we are starting to slowly introduce them, but they're feral, they're flight risks, so their safety comes first. Their safety takes precedent over not going in the house, and we're utilizing the wee-wee pads. So it looks like Donald Oh, yeah, first doggy crate trained, housebreaking was effortless. Yeah, it's a good point, Donald. Once you solidify that crate and then you start expanding their living area, crate training to housebreaking is oftentimes effortless and seamless. It's a seamless transition, which we'll get to in a little bit, but thank you for the comment. So, yeah. So anyway, getting back to types of crates and how you confine your dog, again, it's to each his own. I do still recommend crate training for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So that's that. So setting up the crate. So in an ideal world, let me get a swig of water, sorry. In an ideal world, we know a dog is coming to our house, and we can schedule that dog's arrival. Say, let's say we work a 9 to 5, for instance, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If we can schedule getting that puppy on a Friday after work, that gives us the weekend to work on the crate, because I don't recommend just throwing a dog in a crate. I do recommend an introduction, a slow introduction, which we're going to go over right now. So in an ideal world, we know the puppy's coming. We're getting the puppy where we know we have a day or two to work with the puppy on crate training and acclimating to the environment. Never set the crate up in front of the dog or the puppy, especially if it's a puppy. Most people use wire crates, and nowadays they're collapsible. They fold up, okay? You don't want to set that crate up in front of the puppy, not so much because anything is there's going to be some catastrophic event, but I could tell you this: if you drop the crate or the crate bangs and the puppy is near the crate, that's their first encounter with the crate, and that is not our objective. Our objective is to make their first encounter with the crate as positive as possible. So never set the crate up in front of the puppy, right? We don't want to see, we don't want to expose the puppy to any mishaps that could occur while we are putting the crate together, banging, and think about metal crates. They make some crazy noises when we're pulling, and they get stuck, and then we're pulling, and then it could be a whole mess. So never set the crate up in front of the puppy. Have the crate set up first before the puppy or the dog arrives. If the dog, which anyone in rescue knows, sometimes we don't know when a dog is coming. Sometimes it just happens, and then we're scrambling trying to get a crate popped up somewhere. So keep that in mind. So if we know the dog is coming, we could have the crate set up, or if the dog is already there, maybe have someone take the dog out in the yard or for a little walk while someone else sets up the crate. That's kind of how we want to set it up. And once the crate is set up, what we don't want to do is, let's say my water bottle is the crate, right? And my chapstick is the dog. We don't want to bring the dog over to the crate and say, "Oh, look, Fido, look, what's this?" No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to say, we don't want to present it, right? What we want to do is we want to have the crate just become part of the dog's environment. We don't want to point it out. We don't want to bring the dog over to it. We want to let the dog just inspect the environment. 9 out of 10 times, the dog is ultimately going to be like, "Oh, what's that?" And they'll go over and they'll inspect the crate. Don't reward them. Don't encourage them. Don't look at them. Don't say anything. Just let the dog or the puppy process this new information on their own. And I'm only saying this because if that puppy goes over there and you verbally acknowledge, even with the best of intentions, and potentially freak the puppy out, or if the puppy's really nervous and then hears your voice and then backs away, that's all it takes for conditioning to occur. See, one thing people don't understand, dogs are a lot smarter than we think, and they get conditioned to their environment a lot quicker than we think. So just let it be initially. Let that initial approach happen organically without our intervention. Does that make sense? I don't want to beat that home too much, but now, once the dog starts to feel a little comfortable, maybe it sniffs and walks away, that's fine. That's what we want. We want it to be as matter of fact as possible, okay? It's called habituation. Once something becomes part of the environment, that's the process of habituation. So that's basic dog behavior. So another example of habituation is, and I use the example of where my wife and I used to live up in New Jersey. When we bought our house many, many years ago up in Bloomfield, New Jersey, the side of our house faced the Garden State Parkway. And we heard the traffic. And it was, I mean, we heard the traffic. It was like, you know what, we'll probably get used to it. After a couple of months, people would come over and be like, oh, wow, there's a lot of traffic. We didn't hear it at all. It just became part of our environment, right? And that's kind of what habituation is. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a superficial example, but you get the idea. Let me make sure I'm checking this chat. Okay. Yeah, that Facebook changed their new live, so I'm still getting familiar. Everything was over there, and now it's over here, and there's stuff down there. So I'm still getting used to this new thing, which is ironic because I just started getting used to Facebook Live to begin with, and then they changed it. But such is life. Anyway, so getting back to the crate now, the crate becomes part of the environment. How much time passes? It doesn't really matter. It could be 5 minutes. You could let this go on for an hour or two, right, and just kind of let the puppy get used to it. Ultimately, we have to start intervening, right, to create some positive association. And, a lot of people toss treats near the crate, and that's fine too. And again, you don't have to say anything to the dog or the puppy. We don't have to say, oh, look, Fido, look, it's the crate. No, you could just toss treats over, let the dog, just let the dog or puppy go over there, pick up some treats. That's fine. You can open the door and walk away, or if it was the first interaction, the door could already have been opened, and that's fine too. Sometimes the dogs will go in and check it out, but at any rate. So we do want to use a lot of positive association. Obviously, food is our, that's our best friend when we're trying to create positive association with anything, really. In this case, it's the crate. So we want to toss some treats over. If your puppy's feeling a little confident, maybe he goes in there. That's fine too. Let the puppy walk away from the crate and then toss some treats in. Let the puppy go into the crate, grab some treats, come back out, things along those. And again, there's no time here. You trust your intuition, trust how the puppy is progressing and accepting the crate. And sorry, I'm just making sure I don't. Okay. I gotta. I'm sorry. This new format is messing me up. I'm looking over there for the comments, but they're over anyway. I'll shut up. So create positive association. Remember, we're not even putting the puppy in yet. We're just letting the puppy or the dog get used to the crate. And if it's an older dog, they may have some exposure to a crate at some point in their life prior to coming to you, so that just might make things a lot easier. And remember, we're setting this up under the ideal situation that we know a puppy's coming to us. We have a couple of days to work through this. And day one, we may not even get to the point where the puppy goes in there, but it's possible we could. Bedding. Bedding is another to each his own. With puppies, I could tell you got to be careful with bedding, just because they're teething. They're in pain constantly, so they're going to constantly chew. So you might be better off, especially initially, paper towels, some shredded newspaper. Keep it simple, because if they chew it up or ingest it, it's not a big deal. And if you read the nespapers, I don't really know anyone who reads a physical newspaper anymore, but if you have a newspaper, great. And what I recommend if you're using a newspaper especially is you could lay some down flat, but then shred some. So let's say this was a newspaper, my piece of paper, right? I would shred it like this, like that, and keep going. And I would fluff it up and just drop it in the crate. That's how I've done it. I know a lot of people who work with puppies, they work it that way too. Somehow it's like this miraculous thing. All the little puppy crap gets wound up in those little shreds, and it keeps the puppies a little cleaner. So that's one way you could do it with the newspaper. Paper towels, obviously, if they pee and stuff, it could be a little messier, but I would keep it simple at first. Don't put anything in there, too comfortable. Until the puppy understands that, hey, this is where I eat and sleep. This is not where I pee and poop, which we'll talk about in a minute. So bedding is important. If things are going great, then yeah, and you want to make it comfortable, absolutely. We want the crate as comfortable as possible. And whether it's fleece blankets, which is probably, especially if you're raising a puppy, fleece blankets are pretty good. If you get not stuffed fleece, it's just fleece. You don't want to get anything with stuffing in there. That stuffing or stitching, that stuff could cause problems, especially if the dog or the puppy chews. So we have a comment, snacks in the crate is why I have fat kids. Good point, Bobby, but if we're training or implementing the use of food in training or positive reinforcement, we have to make sure that we're calculating that in our dog's daily calorie intake, so cut back on food. Like I should talk, I'm a chubby dude, which is funny because my dogs are in great shape, so I live vicariously through my pit bulls. I wish I had muscles like them. But anyway, I digress. So, so fleece is always your best option for an initial upgrade in comfort, if you will. They're easy to wash. If they absorb pee pretty well as well. So, and again, if they chew them a little bit, even a little puppy, if it chews a piece of fleece, generally, we don't want them to, but if it happens, it's a lot safer than a fluffy dog bed where they can ingest that stuff and get, all that fuzzy stuff gets impacted. But again, as the puppy progresses or the dog progresses and we know that crating is going well, we can certainly improve the comfort in the crate. Because that's what we want. We want the crate to be as comfortable as possible. And again, the bedding is kind of after you do the intro. We're still talking about the intro. I just want to throw that bedding stuff out there. So getting back to intro, as the puppy starts going in and out, hopefully is going in and out, taking some treats. We want to do that. And what we want to do is we want to feed their next meal. So whatever that is, if the puppy comes to you at night, their next meal might be in the morning. We want to feed that first meal in front of the crate. Not in the crate, outside the crate, but right in front of the crate. And again, we're not making a big fuss. This isn't a big ordeal like, come on, you're gonna go eat by the crate. No, just feed how you normally feed, just in front of the crate, not in the crate, okay? And then if all goes well and the puppy eats without incident and isn't concerned that the food is near the crate now, that's fine. Then the next meal, you would put the bowl inside the crate, but right inside the front door. So the puppy would literally be standing outside the crate, but eating the food inside the crate. Does that make sense? And then the next meal, if you wanted to, you could put the food in the back of the crate so the puppy has to go in. And again, don't make a big fuss. You'd be surprised. Puppies and dogs are resilient, and this is how they gain confidence too. Right? And food is a great way to help them along in that regard. And we're not closing the door yet, right? We're still just feeding, right? And again, if the tossing of the treats went well and the puppy's really good and comfortable, the puppy might go lay down in there, and then all this slow intro stuff is moot, and you could just kind of proceed. And we'll talk more along the lines of what we would do next as far as how long to crate and whatnot, but. I tend to go slow, especially with puppies and crating, because I want the crate to be introduced as positively as possible. So I tend to go a little slower if I can. Sometimes I can't, especially when I'm working with rescue dogs. If a rescue sends a dog here for my enrichment program, I don't always have that luxury. So sometimes I have to expedite the issue. But, for the purpose of dog owners or puppy owners, slow and positive is the best way to go. So, again, work your way back, work your way with the feeding inside the crate or whatever. And again, this video, you could watch it again. These things may not even be in order. You may toss treats in. You may not even feed yet. You might not feed in the crate for a couple of days. Because another way to create positive association is after you toss some treats in, the puppy's going in and out and feeling more comfortable with the crate. Excuse me. You might want to put a little recreational chew in there, something that the dog can chew on for a couple of minutes, right? After the dog is in and out, they're eating the treats, feels a little comfortable, we could toss a little recreational chew. Nothing that's going to last too long, maybe something that's going to last 3 to 5 minutes. Toss it in, let the puppy go in there, and then close the door. Now, this is going to sound kind of goofy, but the first time you close the door, especially if it's a metal wire crate, don't slam it. Don't slam it, because if you're working on this slow intro for 1, 2, 3 hours and then ultimately the puppy feels comfortable and you can get the puppy in there with a nice recreational chew, like a piece of jerky or maybe a duck foot, again, something that's not going to last that long. You slam that door, even accidentally, that could cause a little bit of regression, could cause the puppy to feel some apprehension towards the crate. So I know it sounds goofy, but just keep that in mind. And I slam doors all the time. My wife yells at me because I'm running up and down the stairs, slamming the door. Her art falls off the wall in her office. And so anyway, so maybe that's more for me than you. So just be careful when you close the door for the first time. So ideally, puppy goes in, starts eating that recreational chew. You close the door. Don't talk. Less talk, more communicate, right? Don't tell the puppy, oh, it's okay, I'm just putting you in here for a few minutes. No, don't need to. Close the door as matter of fact as possibly, but slowly and softly. Don't slam it. Just matter of fact, close it and step away. Don't look at the dog. Don't talk to the dog. Try to keep the crate in your peripheral vision so you can kind of monitor what the puppy is doing. And you don't have to walk away into another room. You can stay in the puppy's line of sight, which is probably a good idea when you first close that door, just so you can monitor out of the corner of your eye. And ideally, puppy chews, lays down even, and then you want to open up that crate door and let the puppy out. Now, the first time you close that door, this is the hard part. And I should have mentioned this earlier. Before you actually close the door, you have to make sure that the puppy peed and pooped and doesn't have to go to the bathroom. Because the first time you close that door, if the puppy whines or starts getting vocal, with the exception of a safety issue, under no circumstances should you open that door, look at the puppy, make eye contact, talk to at all, if the dog is vocal and whining and a little uncomfortable, okay? That is going to set you up to have a very vocal dog when in the crate. And we don't want to validate barking and whining. So that's why it's important to do this slowly and to be in close proximity, still in the puppy's sight, and we're using a high-value recreational chew or piece of jerky or something for that first time that the puppy's in the crate when the door is closed. Excuse me. So, I think you get the idea with this whole positive association, right? So, ultimately, we work through this, and again, we're getting the puppy ideally on a Friday. We have a couple of days, or whatever the day of the week it is, but we have someone there to facilitate this. And, this could all happen in a couple of hours. I'm not saying this has to happen over 2 days. It can, and it may need to happen that way, but we can go as slow or as fast as the puppy is telling us. That's why we have to trust our intuition, and we have to trust what we're seeing. If it seems the puppy's getting used to it, you're good. You're fine. Don't stress. So close the door for short periods of time, and then maybe the next day, at night, it would probably be a good idea that the puppy is crated at night, especially the first night. You can't have a puppy have free roam. So hopefully over the course of the few hours of this intro, the puppy's feeling a little more comfortable. So you put that puppy in the first night. No food, no water. Puppy doesn't need water in the crate. They're not going to dehydrate in 8 hours, okay? You want to, give that puppy some water 1 hour prior to their last pee-pee or poopy walk, okay? And pee-pee and poopy is a technical term. At least it's my technical term. I say pee-pee and poopy, so kill me. So no water an hour, no water or food an hour before. Because ultimately, if you're sleeping, the puppy is unsupervised, right? And we'll talk about supervision in a minute, but that's one of the whole purposes of crate training is to have a dog or puppy confined and safe when unsupervised. So anyway, so that's the crate intro. And incidentally, you know what? I have let me pull up that video real quick. I have an intro, a crate intro video on my YouTube channel as well. And I'm going to pop that in the comments because it's not a long video, but I may talk about stuff in there that, again, I'm trying to get to everything in an hour on this Facebook Live. So, that video might have other things in there that are helpful. So, and you can share that if you know anyone, or, whether it's a friend or a rescue who has a puppy, getting a puppy or whatever, feel free to check out that how to introduce the crate video. So, anyway. So after that, we introduced the crate, and now one of the questions I get asked the most is, how long should a dog or puppy be crated for? There is a formula. It's not an exact science. It's just a recommended formula, and for the most part, I found it to be pretty true. Is however many months old the puppy is, add 1 to that, and that's how long they could generally hold it in. So if you have a 3-month-old puppy, they could probably hold it in for 4 hours before it just gets too uncomfortable. If you have a 6-month-old puppy, they could probably hold it in for 7 hours. Now, the size of the dog also, you have to take that into consideration too. A small breed probably won't be able to hold it in as longer at 5 months of age as a large breed dog can at the same age, just because they have bigger bladders, right? And it's basic stuff, basic common sense, right? So small breeds, which ironically, anyone who's had a large breed and a small breed probably can attest that for whatever reason, the large breed dogs, they seem to housebreak a little quicker than small breed dogs. So that could go into, which we'll talk about down the end, is how to, and I'm not talking about weaning off of a crate here, but we are going to touch on that later on. What's the matter, buddy? I'm sorry, I'm getting hounded for attention here. Come on. Say hello to everybody. Say hello to everybody. No. Your breath stinks. Oh, your breath stinks. Sorry. That's my boy. That's Deuce, the tongue. I post pictures of his tongue on He's tongue Facebook famous. Anyway, yeah, so I'll talk about weaning off the crate and getting into more housebreaking stuff. Again, I'm just going to touch on that before we end tonight. So the formula is however many months old, add 1. Now, if you have a dog that you're adopting that has never been exposed to a home, or maybe they lived in like an outside pen before they were rescued, you got to treat them like they're puppies. So you might have a 2-3-year-old dog. Treat that dog like an 8 or 12-week-old puppy. Okay? Consider the fact that this dog never had the opportunity to strengthen her or his bladder or bowels, right? So it may be like physically painful for them to hold it in for longer than a few hours. So just keep that in mind. As they're fully crate trained and they get older, and you know how long they can kind of hold it in, and let's say they're 10, 11, 12 months old, or that 2 or 3-year-old that you adopted is really solid, sleeps through the night, no soiling, nothing like that. Generally, you can, most people work. Most people have Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type jobs, and maybe the dog is crated all day when they're at work and they feel bad. Yeah, I get it. You feel bad that they're holding it in that long, but they can, okay? And 8, 10 hours, that's kind of your window, if you will, and it sucks, but we work, right? Ideally, it's in your budget to have a dog walker or maybe a friend, come over midday and, let the dog out for a little midday bathroom break. That would be ideal. But once they're crate trained and they're holding it in, generally you can get a work day out of them. Okay, we have a question here from Janice. Will you be getting in the crate to show us the proper way it's done? Yeah, Janice, funny. I never let, many years ago, 2020? I want to say 9 years ago, in our old house, I got in my dog's crate, and I don't know, I think we put a note or something on the crate, and Diana locked me in there, and I've never lived it down. Everybody always brings that back up. I'm guessing that's what Janice is alluding to. In fact, my friend Howard Epstein, obviously I'm goofy with my wife on Facebook. Howard will pop in and be like, "Be careful, Jeff. She's going to throw you in the crate." So anyway, back to my list. So ideally you can get a dog walker, a friend or family member to let the dog out midday. And while we're on this whole letting the dog out midday, there is something I want to bring up before I move on to some do's and don'ts. And this is kind of a don't. If you currently have a dog or a puppy that's crate trained and you're under a stay-at-home order right now and you're home all day long, you're probably not crating your dog as much as you did just 2.5 weeks ago because now you're home, okay? Please stop doing that. Okay, I know it's hard because you're home. Your dog still needs crate time, okay? And, you know, God willing, this COVID crap is over soon and we're all back to our normal routine and, you know, shortly. So let's just say the summer comes along and you have a 5-month-old puppy, right? Yeah, summer comes along, we're out and about, this whole thing's over, you still have a puppy. The difference is now you have a puppy that hasn't been crated in 2 months, okay? And that's a problem. So you want to make sure you are still utilizing the crate during the stay-at-home time as much as possible, as close to your schedule as possible. Now, obviously, if you're home all day, the dog's not going to be in the crate 8-9 hours because you're home. But definitely have little couple-hour clips where you're just putting the dog in there. More importantly, and this is a mistake that some people make with crating, and I should have mentioned this earlier, and this is really important. And I hope, I don't know, we're almost 40 minutes, or half hour in or whatever, and I hope people who are watching this get to this point because this is very important with crate training, okay? You don't crate your dog just when you leave, right? When you start crate training, you don't crate just when you leave because now the crate, after all this positive introduction and all crap you went through to make sure this is solid, now the dog is going to develop the crate with separation from you. That, and I'm not saying that could cause it, but could certainly contribute to separation anxiety. So when you are in the process of crate training, make sure you're utilizing the crate when you're home as well. So that kind of applies to what's going on in the country now here, well, around the world, really. I was going to say here in the U.S., but everybody's going through it, right? There's pet dogs all over the country, all over the world. So, you know, the fact that you're home all day doesn't mean you don't have to use the crate. You still need to utilize the crate, okay? So make sure that your dog has crate time during this period that we're going through. So, you know, again, let's say for argument's sake, summer rolls along, your dog is still in the crate, and more importantly, in the crate when you're home. There's not that separation association with the crate. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of people do. They only put their dogs in the crate when they leave the house. And that's really not, that doesn't contribute to a positive association. If anything, it could kind of work against us. So keep that in mind. All right, some do's and don'ts. I don't know, if anyone has questions, you can feel free to pop them in. I think I got this whole Facebook, this new format figured out well. So anyway. So we did the intro. I think you got the gist of things now. And you going forward for the foreseeable future, you want to feed at least one meal in the crate all the time, every day. Right? I know we talked about doing the feeding just as part of the positive intro type of thing, getting the dog used to the crate over the course of a couple of days. Well, going forward, if you have a puppy and you're feeding 3 times a day, one meal should be in the crate, right? And that theory of dogs don't pee and poop where they eat and sleep, that is true most of the time. I've been around enough dogs to know that some dogs don't care where they pee and poop. Especially some of the rescues where they never had that opportunity. Older dogs, they'll just pee and crap, or dogs with severe anxiety, they might pee and poop. For the most part, dogs don't pee and poop where they eat and sleep. So that's why we're feeding. That's also, when we started earlier, the size of the crate matters as well, because dogs are less likely to pee and poop where they eat and sleep. And again, going back to intros and how often we should let the dog out, if they have to go and they can't hold it in, they're going to go. That's why if we're putting puppies in a crate and we're gone 8-10 hours a day, it's important to have someone coming in midday to help us out. So always put your puppy or new dog in the crate when unsupervised. Okay? And supervision doesn't mean you're home. That's not what supervision means. Supervision means you can see the puppy, okay? So right now, I am in front of you, okay? So let's say I'm looking at you guys and you are the dog, okay? Right now, you are supervised. Right now, you are not supervised. Get it? Very simple. That is the definition of supervision. Means you can see the puppy, okay? And I can tell you right now, everything that happens when the puppy is not supervised, or people who are in rescue, if a child gets nipped by the dog, it's the same exact thing we hear all the time. Oh, the phone rang. I just went to answer the phone. Or, oh, I was just heating something up real quick. Or, oh, I was just getting this. I just walked out of the room for a split second. That's when the shit hits the fan, no matter what it is, right? It's usually when there's no supervision. So always have the puppy or the dog crated when unsupervised, okay? And again, this is why going back to make sure that we're utilizing the crate when we're home as well, because we could be home and not be able to supervise the puppy, right? Take a shower, on a business call, whatever the case may be. We're cooking, whatever. Maybe outside doing yard work. Supervise, and when you can't, use the crate. And always put I didn't talk about that yet, but always put your puppy or dog in the crate in a positive manner. Never use the crate for punishment, okay? And I'm sure everybody's heard that. And I'm sure we've all made mistakes where we got a little frustrated with one of our dogs, and I'm not saying we dragged them in, maybe we kind of made them go in the crate and it was a little uncomfortable. We can't do that, especially when we're introducing the crate. And especially in the early stages of crate training, we never use the crate for punishment. And for the rest of the dog's crate time, we never use the crate for punishment. Now, there's an exception to that rule, and that exception is this. The dog can't feel like she or he is being punished, right? That dog might have just chewed your best pair of shoes or your brand new iPhone, and you are pissed, right? What's the first thing you gotta do? You gotta clean up the mess, right? Puppy's gotta go in the crate because the puppy's gonna be unsupervised while you're tending to the mess. Deep breath. First line of defense. Take a deep breath, let it go, right? Puppies chew stuff, puppies get into trouble, crap happens, right? Take a deep breath, grab a treat. Come on, let's go, baby, let's go in the crate. Lure them in as positively as you possibly can muster under frustrating circumstances, right? Because, putting a dog in a crate angry or frustrated, it could have the same catastrophic results as far as positive association to the crate. So although we are technically putting the dog in the crate for punishment, the dog can't feel that. We got to breathe, got to center ourselves, grab a yummy treat, and put him in there. Come on, you little motherfucker. So never use it as punishment. Recreational chewing, right? And depends on the puppy or the dog or the treat you're giving. If it's a cow ear or duck foot or chicken foot or something like that they're gonna gobble up in a couple of minutes, and you want to just give them a treat in the kitchen while you're doing something, that's fine. We give our dogs raw bones sometimes, and Deuce and Sable are 6.5 and 7.5 years old, and they still have their crates are in our bedroom. That's where we give them their bones, and for two purposes. It's cleaner. We have hardwood floors, and we don't want our hardwood floors getting yucky, and we don't need them to experience any conflict over a high value food reward like a raw meaty bone. So they will be in their crates for that type of recreational chewing. So if you have a multi-dog household, it could come in handy in that regard too for managing the environment, which we'll talk about in a minute. So recreational chews are, like we talked about earlier, that's one of the ways we're going to be introducing them to the crate as well. In the early stages of the crate intro is putting that first little recreational 2 or 3 minute chew in there when we close that door for the first time. So, collars, harnesses, stuff like that. Be careful what the puppy or the dog has on when you're putting her or him in the crate. They should not have anything that they can get snagged on the crate or anything like that. So if you're using any kind of walking aids or harnesses that might be a little loose, take them off, okay? And most nylon collars aren't a big deal, but until you know the puppy is solidified in the crate, I wouldn't have anything on the puppy in the crate at all. No collar, no harness, no nothing. Never put any kind of training or tethering or harness or anything on the puppy when they first start their crate training. And as you get to know your dog, obviously, if it's older and it has a regular collar on with its tags, that's fine too. But if you use any kind of training tool or handling tool, I don't care if it's a slip collar or a martingale or anything like that, and obviously other collars could cause more damage too. Never have a training device on in the crate. Okay. All right. Environmental management, which is kind of falls in line with other reasons why we use crates. Excuse me, sorry. Multi-dog households, especially if you're bringing in a new puppy or a rescue, until the dogs get to know each other, it's important that the new dog has their own safe space, and the resident dogs, their lives aren't impacted too much either. And again, some dogs, they just get along. You never have to worry about this stuff, but crates can definitely be utilized to manage the environment. And it's not always with conflict. Sometimes we have one of our dogs starts to get older and they just can't handle the stress and energy level of a younger dog. So we may have that younger dog in the crate with the recreational chew just for some environmental management to give the geriatric dog a break. Or what some people do as well, especially if dogs were introduced to crates properly, once our dogs get to their geriatric years, we could reintroduce the crate at that time as well under the same guidelines, slow introduction, so the geriatric dog has a safe, comfortable, quiet place that she or he can retreat to chew on a bone or just to get away from a younger dog. So, managing your environment with multi-dog household isn't just about conflict. It's also about different dogs of different life stages and things along those lines. I hope that makes sense. If you have visitors coming over and maybe they don't jive with dogs in general, and maybe you want to have your dogs put away when visitors come over, I get it, it happens, and I try not to put my dogs away when visitors come over, and I can't even remember the last time I put my personal pets away. I mean, obviously I have rescues here that some obviously there's a whole different set of circumstances as to why they would be, not out loose. First of all, my personal dogs are my personal dogs, so they always take precedence. So, but if you have visitors coming over, maybe it's a holiday and you think your dog is good or you think nothing's going to happen, and I don't mean anything bad. It could just be, let's say it's Thanksgiving. You don't want your dog getting, fed a whole bunch of crap from a whole bunch of visitors. You might want to opt to put the dog away in the crate, and that's fine too. And aside from the fact, if it's a puppy, and it's their first Thanksgiving, and you're having 18, 20 people over your house, and you've never had 18, 20 people over your house before, that is that puppy's first experience in that type of social situation. So utilizing the crate for management under those, that type of scenario could certainly come in handy. And safety. Maybe you have a contractor or somebody working at your house and they're going in and out. That's a time where we're going to utilize the crate. So and no matter how trained our dog is, if they can't get out the front door, they won't. So sometimes it's better to have them crated than risk the that again, a contractor could be going out the front door, maybe he doesn't close it all the way. Bad things happen when people are coming in and out of the house. So again, environmental management is a really, it's a legitimate reason for us to have our dogs crate trained, and it's a legitimate reason to utilize the crate as well. So what time is it? All right, we got a few minutes. I'm going to try and wrap things up here. So myths and misconceptions, okay? My favorite is going to be number 1. It's cruel and inhumane. Wah, wah. Let me tell you, if all this stuff happens, not only, aside from the fact that it's cruel and inhumane is just stupid. I hate when people say that. They have no idea what they're talking about. If you don't like crates, that's fine. That's your issue, not your dog's issue. Don't make your issue your dog's issue. And I know a lot of people that make their issues their dog's issues. If you do it right, they love it. It's a safe place for them. Most dogs go in and out on their own. some dogs actually do better with a crate available to them as opposed to not having a crate. Now, if a crate is used completely incorrectly for punishment and there's all sorts of negative association with it, then yeah, it could be a problem for the dog. But at face value, it's not prison. Oh my God, it's like prison. Oh, shut up. Ay, ay, ay. The dumbest thing I ever hear about crate training is that it's cruel and inhumane. If it's cruel and inhumane, guess what? You did that. You screwed up if it's cruel and inhumane. You did it wrong. Sorry, don't get me started. Oh, actually, I got me started. There's no one talking here. Just me. Yeah, it's not cruel and inhumane. Now, if you have a dog in the crate for 12, 14, 16 hours a day and they're not being let out to go to the bathroom, that, in my opinion, is cruel and inhumane. But the stuff we're talking about here, basic crate training, being in the crate when you're at work, for younger dogs who can't hold it in, having someone come over to let them out, like, that's how we do it. That's the proper way to do it. If the dog's not getting out, you ever been on a road trip and you're just waiting to find that rest area because you have to go to the bathroom so bad? Our bladders are only so big too, and sometimes it gets painful. Well, think about, you have to go to the bathroom, but you got to hold it in for another 6 hours. Like, to me, that's cruel and inhumane. But at face value, it is not cruel and inhumane to crate train a dog. Another one, it's no life for an animal. It's not. It's no life for an animal to live in a crate. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? Crate training has a specific purpose. We talked about many specific purposes. It's not meant for the dog to live in, right? And some dogs got to be crated longer than others, but as long as they have access to what they have access to, they're getting ample companionship, exercise, stimulation. It's, again, we're not talking about it's no life for an animal. It doesn't even come into play here. It's not comfortable. That's another one, another misconception. If it's not comfortable, or if the dog is not comfortable with the crate, it was done wrong. And maybe you adopted a dog that it was done wrong to. It doesn't mean that we still can't recondition them and counter-condition all the bad crap that they have associated with crates. We can still follow all this stuff and start over and create positive association. New environment, new people. Generally, we adopt dogs, right? Maybe they had a little rough past. Now they're in a loving home with a consistent schedule and all that kind of stuff. It's not uncomfortable. And again, we're talking about as the puppy or the dog gets more acclimated to the crate, then we might be adding some more cushy bedding as well. Once we know the dog's not going to chew stuff up, isn't going to pee and poop, we might put, a nice cushy Posturepedic dog bed in there, right? Maybe fluff some blankets up. We can make it extremely comfortable. And remember, when we first started talking early on, once the dog is crate trained, we want to have the dog crated in as large a crate as possible, right? So if you have a 50-pound dog, right, a 50-pound dog generally will be in a 36-inch crate, depending on a 50-pound dog size-wise, could go either way, but generally a 50-pound dog would be in a 36-inch crate. If that 50-pound dog is now crate trained, but still a puppy where you still need to keep him crated when unsupervised, you can put that dog in a 48-inch Mastiff-sized crate. So, in fact, let me see something here. If I can find it. Let me see. Yeah, I'm probably not going to find it. Oh, maybe I found it for you guys. Let's see. No, I didn't find it. Anyway, I was going to show you a picture of a picture of a dog in a crate. It was actually Deuce in a 48-inch crate. I could fit like 4 Deuces in there. So anyway, the moral of the story is, once the dog's crating is solidified, go as big as you possibly can and give more space and more comfort. Doesn't have to be just to stand up, turn around, and lay down. The crate can increase as your trust in the dog inside the crate increases as well. So, another misconception, dogs hate it. Again, yeah, some dogs might hate it if it's not done right. It all goes back to how we introduce them to the crate, how we perpetuate that positive association with the crate. That's why dogs love it. Dogs hate it because it's either introduced properly or it's used as punishment, or they associate it with being separated from you, meaning you only put your dog in the crate when you're gone. Right? That's why I mentioned earlier it's important that we have our dogs in the crate when we're home as well, just so that it's just part of their environment. It's not used just for being separated from us, right? Yeah, so those are some misconceptions. And, and one more that I hear a lot, which I touched on earlier. This is, well, what if there's an emergency? Yeah, guess what? If there's an emergency, you know exactly where your dog is in the crate, right? God forbid there's something catastrophic, like some kind of fire, or maybe there's something happening where the authorities have to get there. Number one, if your puppy is crated, especially a puppy that maybe might get freaked out or something, and they sell those little stickers. You could buy those stickers. I have X amount of pets, dog, cat, bird. You could check off how many you have. You can make your own stickers now. I have one dog. They have the little fire stickers or whatever. So they know you have a dog, right? If they don't see the dog, they might see a dog crate. So if there's an emergency, it might not be a bad idea that you know exactly where the dog is. So, that could go both ways. Some people might say or argue, well, if the dog's in the crate, it might be trapped. Yeah, it'll be trapped in the house too. So, at any rate, we can go back and forth on that. Bottom line is, before I get into weaning, and we have a couple minutes, when done properly, the crate can be a wonderful, safe place for your puppy or your dog. Remember, it's safer for the puppy, it's cheaper for you, it's not forever, right? The crate is not forever, right? And if we follow these simple guidelines, we will introduce that puppy or dog properly. We won't have any issues. And remember, I'm talking about in an ideal situation, we get a dog on a Friday, we work through these things over the course of Saturday and Sunday. It might just be Friday. It might be the course of a couple of hours and you're good to go, right? I always, when I'm doing these videos, I don't know who's watching this. I don't know what kind of dog they have. I don't know the dog's behavior, so I have to be a little more general. I have to offer some suggestions that are a little more conservative. Trust your intuition. You can go as fast as you think the dog can handle. Just don't push the issue. Right, that's the main thing. But when done properly, all dogs should be exposed to a crate at some point in their lives. So weaning off, at some point, and I'll probably do a whole nother video on this, but I did want to touch on it briefly. Again, the whole objective with dogs not peeing and pooping in their crate is because that's where they eat and sleep, right? So the same holds true for when we start to expand their crate. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have your dog's crate in the living room, and the dog's hanging out with you in there watching TV, the crate is in there, the dog eats and sleeps in the crate, right? And you start giving the dog some freedom. Chances are, if the dog has an accident in the house, the dog is not going to pee and poop in the living room where the crate is, where it eats and sleeps, and where it hangs out with you on the couch. Chances are it's going to be in another room. That's generally what happens when there is an accident, because what's happening is the crate is their first crate. Their next crate is the living room. That's the first thing you would expose them to, would be the room that the crate is in. That's when you start giving them more freedom. And this is where dog gates and maybe little hexagon pens, like I talked about earlier, this is where they would come in handy. Because let's say the crate is in a family room, and that's where you want to first start giving your dog a little more freedom. So you start feeding the dog all their meals in that room. That's where a lot of their inside family time activity is. Again, that room becomes their new crate. And then they earn that privilege, obviously, as they get more comfortable, their bladder and bowel strengthens, etc. And then little by little, you give them 2 rooms or 3 rooms, and then the whole house if you want. And our dogs have, they have access to the whole house, but we still have dog gates up from when our old guy passed away last year, and and plus we have rescues in the house all the time, whether they're fosters for our own rescue, or you know, like this time, right, with this whole COVID thing going on, I had a rescue friend of mine. She needed to board a dog in a pinch, so we kind of took on another dog. So we have gates up just for separation reasons, you know, just to manage the environment and things like that. So, but you know, ideally we want to wean our dogs off the crate and giving them 1 room at a time, 2 rooms, etc., until they have the whole house, and that's pretty much it. So. I think I got all the videos in there. Let me just double check. Oh, I did get a question. I don't know if it was this one or if it was a Facebook message. Somebody was asking me where I got my hat. So I'll pop that into the comments below. It's a Adopt a Pit Bull hat, and they come in all colors. So, and they're unisex. So I'll pop that web link below. And it just goes to my website, and there's other attire there too, but that's where I get the hat. And then my people always comment the one pit bull shirt that I wear all the time. Last year, about 5 million pit bulls did nothing wrong. That's also on the website as well. And don't forget my YouTube channel. I love doing these lives, and it's great. And I like to serve my Facebook friends and followers as well. But if you guys can, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, if you can hop over there and check out my YouTube channel and subscribe and click the bell so you get notified when I upload new content, that would really help me out. I would appreciate that. And there's a lot of cool content. I have like 170 something videos up there. I have 3 primary playlists. Well, I have a few now, but You Asked For It is a segment I did where I've gotten feedback, questions, or inquiries from all social media platforms, and I've created content to answer those questions. So that's my You Asked For It playlist. I have the Doggy Quick Tip playlist that has a lot of good content on there. I have my 7-day dog care challenge. And that's 7 days you add something to your dog's life to improve behavior and reliability. That's a really cool playlist, and that's good for if you have a dog experiencing some behavioral issues, or maybe you just need to refine or revisit training. Definitely check out my 7-day dog care challenge, because that'll really help both you and your dog get into good habits in 7 days. So I think that's all I have, and I don't think I missed any questions or anything. And if you guys have questions, feel free to PM me, email me, whatever, and hopefully this video was helpful. And again, I have those other 2 videos I posted, how to properly introduce the crate and how long. Oh, you know what? I didn't put the how long in there. I have another video, how long should a dog be crated for? I know we talked about it here, but I want to give you that other YouTube video link as well, because you could check that video out. Hopefully that pops up. Yeah, so that went through. Anyway, everyone, thank you for hanging out with me for an hour. And again, hopefully it was helpful to you. And it's helpful for me too. I mean, just to take a break from all the crap, you know, that we see on the news. And I mean, I try not to watch too much of it, but, you know, obviously I'm curious to see what's going on. So I do tune in from time to time. So this was as helpful for me, hopefully, as it was for you. So thank you very much, and I will see all you guys soon. Stay safe.